So
wait, first start with this clear, and then just start with your so and bring in the material in. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, go.
welcome to Cross Your Hearts. So I'm starting at the beginning of Elgar Variations with the theme. Symphonically when it's performed, the theme and variation 1, which is his beloved wife Caroline Alice, who he called Alice. It segues right into it. But I do have it broken up on my website, each variation, so that you can easily listen to and find each variation even when they roll into each other. But then I encourage you to listen to a recording, which I will recommend at a later date, of the whole thing playing through. But in order to organize my thoughts and create artwork and notes about it, I broke it down to listening to just the theme, and I did a timeline. It's 1 minute and 29 seconds, which makes this great for working on creativity. That's why I am so drawn to the Elgar Enigma variations, because you can take each little variation and create a character development, or since they were, in fact, in his own words, sketches of his friends, you could create sketches like I'm doing, and use, and it's small bites, so it's easier to dig in deep. So I started just listening with the theme and mapped out the 1 minute 29 seconds, which is little tick marks, noting to myself what I'm hearing in the music. And like, for instance, 7 seconds in is when it starts, the music actually starts, and it's a hesitant walking pace, which is, I'm sure, by design by Elgar. And it continues on, and the violins reach a point of a little bit of what feels like a little struggle and a tiny defeat, but then they keep going. And 34 seconds into it, you hear the clarinet. Clarinet is huge in my mind to the Elgar variations, and maybe is what the overarching enigma, who knows. The clarinet line to me has always sounded orange in color. It doesn't have to sound like orange to you. That's just simply what I hear. And in this, and the way I'm envisioning this through the mouse point of view, which if you want to hear about that, I'll have a long explanation of how this came to be about mice and little critters. But the clarinet, to me, is throughout the entire variations, through the whole piece, and it winds around when it shows itself above the orchestra and you hear it floating. It literally curls around, curly Q, like a ribbon, like a beautiful, delicate orange ribbon tying around, and to me it literally ties all the variations together. And the first time the clarinet floats above is 34 seconds into this theme, and it's playing along with its friends, the flutes and the oboes. And to me, I hear him reflecting on memories, sometimes bittersweet. It's been noted historically that he was very down at this time in his life, frustrated that he wasn't making traction as a composer. It says that some of his friends, although I don't think any that are depicted in here, were discouraging. So he was literally, when this started to be composed, had walked home from teaching music lessons. And so that's what I visualize here and hear in the music, is him hesitantly at a walking pace, walking home from teaching, feeling a little down about not getting traction as a composer. The clarinet comes in and is sort of that orange ribbon tying it together with a little bit of hope tied into it, which I'll allude to again and again throughout the variations. 51 seconds, it gets pretty somber, and at 57 seconds, the cello line rises up, and the cello is in the range of the human voice. And you'll hear me say that many, many times. I'm convinced that that is why almost everyone I meet says, oh, I love the cello, because it sounds like our voice. It's in the range of our human voice. And the cello, when heard on its own, certainly in symphonic music when it comes out, is very vulnerable because it's very human. And the cello line shows itself at 57 seconds into this recording, and you can hear that tinge of despair. So he's walking hesitantly in self-doubt, and it's tinging towards despair, 57 seconds into it. And as it moves along, 16 more seconds later, at about minute 16, the horns join in. You will also hear me talk about the horn line often when I talk about symphonic music and how I hear it and how I hear what the composer is saying. I hear the horn line in general in almost all symphonic works as the voice of God or source energy or whatever you choose to call it, which could explain, I mean, it is the most treacherous instrument I can imagine. Horn and oboe, I am so happy to just sit in the section of a cello section and blend in and play my part. Horn line, again, to me, always sounds like the voice of God or source energy. And it's so powerful. And one of the most beautiful things I find performing the cello and playing the cello in the orchestra and listening to symphonic music and the cello line is that many, many times that vulnerable cello line, because again, it's in the same range as the horn, gets to kind of ride on this magic carpet and ride along with the horns, as if the source energy, God, is carrying that vulnerable human. And the horns join in at a minute 16 as this theme is coming to a close and getting ready to segue into the one about Alice, his love. And so I visualize, feeling that support, almost as if she's reaching out to take his hand to walk with him. And so begins Variation 1, in which he introduces Caroline Alice.